Amazing.
I believe we're live.
I think
Not
we're
yet.
live.
Not yet.
Oh,
This meeting is being live streamed. Okay, you'll say.
maybe it's connecting. Amazing.
Hello, Haley. Well, okay, first of all, I'm so glad to be on OML YouTube Live. My name is Catherine Linton. I am the one of the co-founders of Venus Community, which you can find on the Apple or Google Play. It's a new platform and app for lesbian, bisexual, and queer women, trans, lesbian, inclusive, which Haley is a member, and we have her podcast. Um, and so Venus is the reason we're here, Venus Community again. And I wanted to welcome Haley. I am so honored that A, you've joined us on Venus, and B, that you have joined me for this interview. Now, Haley is a digital creator, a podcaster who is, now correct me if I get any of this wrong. You have a growing audience of 15,000 or more. You can be
Yeah,
found on
about.
TikTok, right? TikTok is probably where
Yes,
you are seen the most.
I think
Uh,
so.
YouTube, what is it? YouTube, God, I'm going to get it wrong. Spotify, Apple, and Patreon. I know that your podcast,
Yes,
you have Gasp the Pod, which is long form. TikTok, you do the short form pieces for.
exactly.
And that's much more daily that people can see you. The
Yes.
podcast, how often do you put Gasp the Pod out?
So, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. I feel like you should not be interviewing me. I'm honored to be interviewed because you are the Emmy winner. Um, I Gasp the Pod is released every Wednesday. It is weekly. I try to segment it out through seasons, even though there doesn't need to be like seasons of a podcast, but it's just better for me to organize it that way. So I'm in between season two and season three. So I'm taking like a 2 week break, but usually it is weekly. Yeah.
How dare you, Haley? How dare
I
you?
know.
Greg?
I know.
Um, you work very hard, as a lot of creators do. And on a podcast, I'm gonna before we get into your podcast and all the content that's on it, I just wanted to
Mhm.
ask where you grew up, when you knew that you were sapphic inclined, or when
Yeah.
you liked girls. I'd love to hear a little bit about your background.
Yeah. So, I'm in DC right now. I live in DC with my girlfriend of almost 4 years. I grew up in Northern Virginia, which is close by here, but right when I graduated college, which I went to college, at William and Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia, I was like, I'm getting out of Virginia. So I moved to LA, but I'm back over here. I grew up very Catholic and not necessarily in a conservative way, but any type of Catholic, I don't know, I think I have a lot of like shared experiences with people that talk about being raised Catholic. There's like a shame, and even if it's not directly told to you to be shameful, you feel like you shouldn't be thinking about sex in any way, shape, or form, or like thinking about yourself and exploring any other possibility. So I just assumed that I was straight until like college, middle of college. And what's really funny is that I was very, very passionate about gay rights by the time I went into high school. I was like a huge ally, and I was a huge ally in college. And I surrounded myself by a lot of gay people. And college is like really where I started taking like gender studies classes. And I majored in gender studies, gender, sexuality, and women's studies. Um, and I took classes for 2 years before I realized that I was gay, which is so funny because I thought I would have known by then. Like I'm around so many other gay people, like I would know if I was gay. And I didn't until I think I should do a podcast episode specifically about this, but I interned at the LGBTQ task force and I was a comms intern, and I went into it thinking that I was straight and left it finding out that I was bi, mostly just because I was like had the ability to like I don't know, just surround myself by mostly queer people, and I think my brain just started to unravel itself. It took me so much like de-learning and things that weren't even cognitively like in the forefront of my brain to realize I was queer. But yeah, so I'm bi, and ever that was when I was 21 did I come out. Um, but I think that there might be, I don't know, this was just my experience, but I think because I'm bi and I was attracted, or I am attracted to men, um, I think that I didn't really have a reason to like question myself. Where I talk with my girlfriend all the time because she's lesbian and she talks about how she kind of felt different from people a lot growing up. And I never really felt different because I just assumed when I was attracted to girls that everyone felt that way. And that when I was attracted to guys, like, oh, that's normal. So I just didn't really like question myself. But so yeah, that's my sexuality story. But there's obviously a lot there.
Which I think, there's so many, I mean, the numbers of which is amazing. Your generation and even younger identifying as bisexual, that's something that is people are more comfortable, and particularly
Yeah,
young women. Um, and
for
it's
sure.
traditionally, and I saw you did an episode recently talking about Fletcher. Um,
Yes.
I didn't even know. I have to catch up on pop culture a little bit.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
so, but and mentioned the age-old battle between lesbians and bisexuals, and on Venus, we're very much welcoming bisexuals onto our platform and into Venus, because I think there has been this idea that, you know, oh, you make a choice, you're not really bisexual, it's not
Right.
possible, it doesn't really exist. So I'm curious about your that experience within actually with the lesbian community. If you were
Right.
judged as, are you really?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And I think you're right when you say it's an age-old battle. Um, I think my experience being a bisexual dating men versus dating women is so different. And I think before I had a serious girlfriend and I was dating men, I was dating women, I think that I still felt very queer. So not to say anyone else's experience is like maybe they felt invalidated. Um, I felt very accepted, but I also did not realize how different the experience would be, like if I was dating a woman. And when I started, I mean, walking on the street, having to like tell everyone you meet that you're gay. I think before, like I could tell people I was bi, like I'm very straight passing, so no one would really like I when I walked into a store, I wouldn't be discriminated against based on my sexuality before. Now, every situation I'm in, if I'm with my girlfriend, you are like facing the world as very outwardly gay. So I feel like that experience really made me realize like how different the world treats you when you have a girlfriend. And at the same time, like there definitely is biphobia within the queer community. And I think it's so interesting being bi because even though, yeah, like you said, there's, I think the majority or bisexuals are the majority of the queer community, perhaps. That might be
Yes.
a statistic.
I mean,
Um,
that is a current statistic.
okay,
Yes.
yeah. It's so interesting because where you are changes how you're seen, like for sure. And
Mhm.
I feel like you kind of like have to mold into whatever community you're or like whatever group you're around. So, I mean, once I started dating my girlfriend, there's still people that like naturally just say lesbian, which I don't say as like a bad thing, but it's just not accurate. Um, and I obviously women or anyone who's in a relationship with the opposite sex and is bi like faces that too, where they just assume people assume that they're straight and they just have like a touch of gay. So it's very interesting how this phenomenon of biphobia continues on, um like amidst our community still gaining rights. I mean, also losing them a lot. So, but yeah, the experience of a bisexual is confusing.
But I wonder, I think that your generation is opening that up. I mean, I
Yeah,
think that by sheer numbers alone, that
for sure.
I think just the fluidity of sexual identities. Anyways, I mean, I think in our generation, it really was, if you came in my generation, if you came out, it was like, I mean, I didn't really have a choice. I'm one of those, gold star lesbians. I really like, I was a lesbian from,
Yeah,
um, but I think for us it was it was such a like once you came out it was like and it was so hard there was no support.
hmm,
It was so I think there was that judgment of like choose, pick a side,
right,
like it was a battle, because it felt like a battle
right.
for our rights and everything else. So hopefully that's it doesn't feel, although we are back in the battlefield. um
Yeah,
I'm curious. So, you what you did actually you were actually around the queer community. Who were your, because we're going to get to your work yourself. Who were your sort of queer icons, celebrity influences? Were you on social media a lot? Like I'm just curious about Haley's world,
yeah.
growing up. Like what influenced you?
That's such a good question. And I feel like really the last, I would say 10 years, but probably even just 5 years, there's been such a huge difference in terms of like sapphic and lesbian, just LGBTQ in general, visibility in the media, which a lot of people, conservatives hate, but it is so helpful. Like it is beyond helpful. And I really think that if I saw even just a queer femme in general, or just like any lesbian person in the media at a younger age, it would have like changed my life. Because I think that was a huge reason why I didn't really question myself. I didn't even know bisexual was a word until I was like a senior in high school. And that is 2016. That's really embarrassing for our society. But in terms of icons, I mean, I loved Miley Cyrus, and when I found out that she was bisexual, even though she was hated on during this era of her like coming out and telling people she was bi, that was very important to me because I don't think I knew of any other bisexual at the time. And I also like I think the only representation that I saw was like mask presenting lesbians. I didn't know that you could be femme. And which is, I know some people say that, like lesbian representation leans too femme. I think all arguments are valid, but personally, I just like didn't know. And not until college was I watching shows that had some sort of like lesbian representation. I felt like a lot of shows had like a gay character, like gay man character. But yeah, I didn't really see anyone, but I did start watching YouTube, and like an algorithm, which lots of issues with algorithms in general. However, it caters you content. And I saw Cami Scott, who's a YouTuber who I've met a few times. I would call her my friend. She probably doesn't know who I am anymore, but love her. And she is a blonde femme lesbian YouTuber. And when I first saw like her coming out video on YouTube, I think this was like 2015, 2016, still didn't really understand why I was interested in her at the time or like watching these videos, but I watched them nonetheless. I was like, wait, what? Like I just didn't know. So seeing any type of representation was like mind blowing.
And it's interesting that you said YouTube. I mean, I think
Yeah,
there's a whole generation that is growing up. That is what they watch,
right.
is YouTube. So let's get to what made you, and was it partially inspired by the fact that you weren't seeing yourself or images, that you could relate to? I mean, I'm just curious, maybe it wasn't that you started doing TikTok. Like what inspired you to start doing what you do?
Yeah, I've always wanted to create and just be a creative. I think some of my like most favorite times, specifically in college, was in my gender studies classes and being like in the Socratic seminar type format and just kind of like talking about theory and gender theory and sexuality at like an open table. And I never had access to anything like that before. So just talking about topics that are told to us, you know, are too intimate or too taboo was interesting to me, like in general. Um, but yeah, there was definitely an element of I saw between COVID and like 2023, which is 2023, 2022 was really when I started making queer TikToks and TikToks with my girlfriend. Was I saw a huge influx of like gay content and a lot of people being like starting to question their sexuality because they never saw content like this before. And I think platforms that, you know, just give anyone a platform is so important because it wasn't like studios giving us the permission to be represented. People can just start talking about their lives. And I think people saw people like women specifically saw other women being like, oh wait, I'm attracted to this woman. And I think before, unless you were on like a dating app or unless you saw a lesbian character on TV, you would not really be exposed to like other queers. So yeah, that was definitely a huge reason why I wanted to make content. I also didn't really see a lot of interracial couples. My girlfriend's Puerto Rican and Black, and I felt like I didn't see any of that, like kind of anywhere, at least in terms of media. So that was definitely why I wanted to make content and just like connect with other sapphics online. Like I have a lot of gay friends, but you know, you still kind of feel when you walk around town, you don't know who's queer, you don't know who's not. So I think just having that community, especially during COVID, when you have to be inside, was like so important to me. Yeah.
I mean, the shameless plug, but this is the reason we started Venus, right?
Yeah.
It's community because there's this idea that we're all connected, that now it's 2025, so we're all connected, but you're talking about 2023, right? And this isolation
Hmm.
and not seeing yourself and not seeing an interracial lesbian couple, and,
Yeah.
having those conversations and being able to, see yourself and communicate and be amongst a community, so that's really the motivation why we started Venus. Um,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
so what kind of topics did you want to cover? Like you took to TikTok. What did you talk about? What are your topics?
So TikTok likes to do this thing, and people on TikTok, when you are aspiring to become a creator, the advice that everyone gives you is like pick your niche and double down and make the content based on one specific thing. And I had kind of an issue because I'm really passionate about politics. I'm really passionate about women's rights. I'm really passionate about LGBTQ rights. I'm really passionate about like progressive politics. And I love consuming reality TV, love Taylor Swift, love music, love pop culture. And I think that at first I was making lots of very different types of content. Um, but actually it does kind of work out if people like want to hear what someone has to say, and you don't have to pigeon yourself into like one type of lane. And so I think I found kind of a cool connection between like pop culture and like LGBTQ rights and like activism. And I think those two categories seem very different for some people, but I kind of saw a gap in pop culture coverage. It felt like pop culture coverage was either like Perez Hilton, like, I don't know, kind of froofy, just kind of covering the main headlines. And then that was kind of it. And I never saw really a queer take on pop culture that I kind of felt like was missing. And honestly, a lot of my friends, we love talking about, like my gay friends, we love talking about pop culture. We love talking about specifically, there's this niche of gay pop culture that I felt like was, I don't know, I couldn't consume any podcast or show that was talking about it from the frame of mind that a lot of gay people think about it from. So I was like, let me just do a podcast about it, which some people really don't like still. So,
Um, when did you start to realize that people were paying attention? That it was like something was catching because those
yeah,
are topics you're interested in, but you still, it's a noisy world out there in social media.
yeah.
So when did
It,
you start to notice that people were paying attention?
that's a very good question. I think that in terms of TikTok, I started getting comments about starting a podcast. And this was something that I was already working on the side. And I hadn't told anyone that I was going to start a podcast. So when I started getting comments that I should start a podcast, I was like, great, because that's what I'm trying to plan to do. But I think when people asked for my opinion or what I thought about something, um, was when I realized that people want people want to consume pop culture in not just a froofy kind of guilty pleasure way. And I think pop culture, it kind of gets a bad rap for being like girls love it, like kind of idiot girls love to consume reality shows and pop culture and music, but there's like no other bigger thing behind it. But I think pop culture just is like a reflection of our society and how current how like the current maybe global landscape or like American political scene, how that's reflected in music and art and people's reactions to music and art. And I think that's so interesting beyond just being like, Sabrina Carpenter looks hot, you know? So I think that that was definitely a space that, which she does, that was definitely a space that I felt like was missing. And so I think when I realized that other people weren't finding that content other places, I was like, great, this is awesome.
Okay, so one of your favorite celebrities is Taylor Swift.
Yes,
You do a
it's
lot of
true.
talking about Taylor Swift,
It's true. I do.
which is dangerous ground because there's, people would throw them, like Swifties would throw themselves in front of the bus,
Yeah,
depending on what you say about Taylor Swift. And one of the things you do is you speculate about her
I do.
sexuality. Talk about why you must love Taylor Swift, but like, what made you go down that road?
Yeah, honestly, Taylor Swift was my gateway into thinking about pop culture. So it was honestly Taylor Swift before pop culture, like chicken before the egg. Um, I think that I mean I've been a Swiftie since I was like in elementary school. And part of what Taylor Swift does is puts clues and like coding into her music. And I remember me and my best friend in like fifth grade or sixth grade, we were listening to one of her albums and we saw in her album, like CD cover, she had certain words capitalized. And we like put it together in some kind of clue and it spelled out a sentence. And she did that on purpose. And we were like, holy shit, we just broke the code. Like, this is crazy. But she creates such lore that that was something that kind of like fans were aware of her. When I found out about the Gaylor theory, which is pretty much the theory that Taylor Swift is gay in some way, she's either bi, she's lesbian, who knows? And she'd been putting, should I pause?
Well, pause for this first for somebody who doesn't know the
Yeah.
Gaylor theory and where it came from. Like, well, okay, so explain it. You were about to explain it. I'm sorry, I cut
Yeah. No worries. So it's just the theory that she's gay, but pretty much puts in her lyrics hints and like queer flags to let people know that she's queer. Without telling the general straight public in like a specific PR announcement of being like, this is my sexuality. So the theory goes that, and honestly, a lot of this came out around Lover, her album, where the album is pretty much just like rainbow and like she does a lot of gay things and is attaching herself to the gay community. And a lot of the media took that as being, oh, she's an ally. And I remember when I watched this, I was like, wait, is she coming out as gay? This is amazing. And then I saw the internet and I was like, wait, is no one else seeing that she is like bi right now? So that's kind of I mean, there's so much to go with the theory, but pretty much is just a group of people that, you know, analyze her music, analyze her art, analyze her music videos. And I started making content about Taylor Swift possibly being queer, along with, you know, other types of queer pop culture. That's definitely creates a lot of tension with the community, with the Swiftie community, which I think, you know, there's, and this kind of gets into speculating on sexuality. And yeah, it's interesting. It's very controversial. Controversial. A lot of people think that I'm like not a Swiftie, and I like couldn't be a Swiftie because I hate her. Um, Even though love her, and I think people think saying someone might be gay is like a bad thing. Um, but yeah,
Well, I'm curious about the backlash that you've gotten because, like I said, you know, Swifties will throw themselves in front of a bus,
for
right, to
sure.
defend her, and you're one of them, so you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
So it's like questioning whether she really is in love with Travis or whether it's real or, you know, and it's questioning her. So I would imagine you're getting some backlash, and you probably have gotten backlash on other things. And I'm curious how you handle that. That's hard, right? When you're a content creator.
yeah. Yeah, my girlfriend asks me this all the time. She's like, at what point, like, is it not worth it if
Right.
you are getting so many hate comments? And I think it's interesting because people don't have, specifically Swifties, but there's a lot of people that attach themselves to celebrities. And I am a fan of celebrities, but I think there's a difference between like being a fan and kind of like feeling the need to like protect someone that you don't know from someone else that's not actually harming them. So I totally agree, like, you know, there's a line we can draw in terms of like being hateful or, you know, vulgar towards celebrities, but I find it really interesting the like deep emotional response from people when they find out that some fans, specifically fans and gay people, in pure good intention, read a line like in the way Taylor Swift says, where she says, um, you know, closets like cedar, or I'll pull you into the closet, or she says something like, those lips so scarlet they were maroon, where it's like talking about a woman or talking about being closeting is how we read it. Why people get so upset about something like that, which I just think is interesting. Because I think there's a difference between someone who's homophobic saying, "Oh, you're gay," or like, you know, using a slur, and obviously the intention is bad, versus a fan being like, "Wait, is this lyric a gay lyric? What's happening right now?" Um, but then obviously I do take it to a different level, which is talking about the PR of celebrities in general. And I think Hollywood, yeah,
What is
yeah.
you got to explain that the PR, because I heard you talking about that, and I was like, what's the
Yeah.
PR? But then I mean, I got it once I was watching your podcast.
So I don't claim to like have insider information, which is why I think, you know, like I don't claim to like know the deep secrets of celebrities truthfully, and I'm not trying to expose them to the world because I don't know that. But like living in LA and having a lot of friends who are in entertainment, you learn a lot about how the business works. And like there is, I think it's just interesting to cover Hollywood and celebrities because the media mostly wants to, you know, push them out to us as like relatable, very similar people to us. So I think peeling back the veil on like what a Hollywood relationship would look like and what is, you know, what is their normal versus what is our normal, I find really interesting. And especially like talking about the Hollywood code and how lavender marriages started happening in Hollywood, how they could still continue today, um, is something that I think is a really interesting topic and kind of dissecting Hollywood and pop culture beyond what a pop shot tells us. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of people that don't enjoy that type of content, which that's okay. Move along.
mean, look, I mean, that's an age-old thing, right? Whether,
Yeah,
like, um, speculating, I mean, well, or rumors or got or definitely like Rock Hudson, and like who had the fake
right,
marriages and the PR marriage.
right,
I mean, this has been going on through history, right?
totally.
So it is a topic and it's going to go on as a topic. Um,
Yeah.
there was in the early 90s there was a real controversy over outing celebrities, right? It was a real there was a push to out. I mean, the whole posters, with Jodie Foster and everybody, it was like, come out. How
Mm,
dare you not come out? And this was
interesting.
in
Yeah.
this was really, the community was going through AIDS. It's like the aid had gone through the 80s into early 90s. And then it was like, you have no, you must come out, right?
Mm,
There was a real push. And it felt very aggressive. And I understand
yeah.
in the early 90s why for their career they didn't. I mean, it was, and outing people is tough, right? Like, I don't agree in outing anybody.
Hmm.
But you talked in your episode, what's the difference between speculating and outing? So I'd love to hear you
Yes.
talk about that here.
Yeah. So, outing is, first of all, I think there's two situations that could be perceived as outing. One, someone is gay and you are telling the world based on your own specific knowledge of this person, or you're telling a community, or you're telling the school, or you're telling someone's family, which I think is completely wrong. Or you are calling someone gay in a mean spirited way, if that makes sense. Like, um, you are straight and you are saying someone is gay. I don't know how to explain this in like a homophobic way. I could see how someone could take that as outing.
Right.
I think speculating on sexuality, especially in 2025, is important. And I think a lot of people get confused at that idea. Um, and I think it is okay when someone is making art and using queer flags and you're interpreting, you know, art that they're putting out. Um, but also, speculating on sexuality could mean anything from you're at a lesbian bar, or you're even just walking around, you see someone that you think you might be gay and you go up and hit on them. You kind of have to use speculating in the queer community in order to walk through life. It's like you kind of have to, unless, someone puts specifically like gay on their forehead. Um, but I think, at least in my opinion, we want to get to a society where people don't have to come out, period, but also so that they don't feel like they have to like make this like formal announcement. And I feel like attached to this idea because when I came out, I posted an Instagram story with like it was like happy visibility or happy bi visibility, and it was like a rainbow. And I walked around college thinking that like everyone had seen that I just came out. No one knew. And I was so confused. And I was like, what? And not until I posted like I am bi, or I told people specifically, did people get it. And I think that if we don't speculate on sexuality and think like, is Gracie Abrams writing a bi song? Is Taylor Swift, did she maybe date Carly Kloss in the past? I think not only are we like then pushing celebrities to feel like they have to make this formal statement, but we're also telling fans and people around the world that like you can't be living a gay life until you come out, which I think is, I don't know. I think we should try to get to a society where like coming out is not like a barrier between being gay and being straight. Just kind of like Paige Becker's. She's I don't know if you're familiar, but she's like a young WNBA basketball player. And there was all this speculation that if she was dating her teammate, and then they just posted an Instagram story that they were dating. And there's still a lot of people that say, oh, she hasn't come out yet. Don't speculate on her sexuality. Um, and I'm like, is that not coming out? Like, what is coming out? Is coming out being like just living your life, or is it saying a statement specifically for the world in a very like direct line by line way, which I think is unfair to ask people to do. But that's my opinion.
I mean, there's a, because again, I can see why it's controversial, right? Because it's like
Yeah,
speculating because you don't really know, right? I mean, you can
totally.
lines and somebody could write a line in their art or paint a stroke that, can be interpreted many different ways, right? Um, but it gives, but when you're looking through a queer lens, you also can see queer in a way that other straight
Totally.
people would not necessarily see, right? Um,
Yeah,
and one thing that you said was that you're by talking about it, it's also making it's like, why is that so bad to think that they might be
exactly.
or
Yeah,
okay, like this is not if they were, it wouldn't be a problem. Or, it's like that's sort of fun to think about, even if they aren't, or talk about, or maybe I read that and that as a queer person made me really happy to think that line
right.
was speaking directly to me, you know,
I
because everybody
totally
loves to
agree.
hear a song and think that they're speaking directly to you. Everybody
I
does.
totally agree.
Um,
Yeah, I think so too. And I think like either, the celebrity in question, and I want to make a like distinction too. Like I'm talking about like celebrities that put out like art. Like I wouldn't just like see a random person and then make an announcement. I think this person's gay. Um, but you know, I don't think gay is a bad thing. And I think when it's coming from another queer person, like I can for me, that's like a compliment. I'm like, "Oh, I think she's gay." Like I think that person has like a cool gay style. Like that's in my mind when I'm thinking. But also, yeah, either they're straight and they shouldn't be offended by someone calling them gay, or, you know, Taylor Swift is gay and writing gay lyrics, and is aware because she's writing closeting 15 times in her songs. But like, I don't see there's not really a harm for a straight person being called gay. That's not an offensive thing. But yeah,
right.
there's
Right.
still a lot of people that think it's controversial.
Right. Or she's writing lyrics that are really inclusive. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
you know,
exactly.
like that could be true too. I mean, not all things could be, all of it could be true.
For
Do
sure.
you feel a sense of responsibility with your platforms?
Yes, for sure. I think even though I get comments being like, "Oh, you're just going to push your narrative and uh like you don't care what anyone says." I think I do think a lot about what am I saying, and but specifically, how is this helping queer people? That's where I think my allegiance is to queer people. And I think the more you talk about being gay and calling people gay, and again, and from gay people in like a nice way, it only removes the stigma of being like of thinking that many people are gay. Like a lot more people than are out right now are gay. No pressure for anyone to come out, but I think like just talking about it, talking about gay things, talking about pop culture through a queer lens, I think just destigmatizes things, and allows people to feel like it's just like not a big deal. Like it's gay, and also that it's cool.
Yeah, that's just it, right?
Yeah,
That it can be cool too. You know,
right.
it's like
Yeah,
that person that you love so much, whether they are or they aren't, and those words, and I mean, again, it's not a bad thing, and they may be queer
exactly.
signaling or what is it, flagging, queer?
Queer flagging.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you very much. Um, how is Gen Z reframing the conversations around sexual identity?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think with a lot of things in the internet right now, there's becoming very progressive. People are moving in the right direction, and there's also people that are regressing. I think a lot of Gen Z, at least from what I'm witnessing, is becoming more conservative in terms of like sex and sexuality, and they're settling down earlier. And there's like this pressure to get married earlier. I don't know if that's,
Really?
yeah, I
Wow.
don't know if that's politics influencing that or that's COVID making people feel like they have to settle down. I feel like that's one side of it. But I think there's a lot of people that with social media and also just being able to access other queer people around the world, like with Venus, like being able to talk to someone else who's having the exact same experience as them that they would not have been finding in their high school or University of Alabama, like they're opening their mind without even having to leave their campus. So I think there's a lot of people that are opening up their minds of what sexuality can look like for them, what a relationship is like with someone that is not who they expected to be in a relationship with, maybe different types of people they'd be attracted to. Um, yeah, so I think it's moving in the right direction for a lot of people, which is good.
Say people are settling down and getting married because of COVID. I thought it would be the opposite, right? We were all stuck in a house with each other. It
Right?
was like, no, it's the opposite. It's like, get away from me. What would you say to a young sapphic person who's feeling very alone, and isolated? And for us, we'd say come to Venus. But for you, it's because you are younger and you're closer to that to that
Yeah.
age and experience.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like I'm 27. I feel so old, but I think that's just
Ancient.
because like I don't know. I think COVID made my head not like I don't know, freak out. But um I think when I was in high school and also when I was in college, I felt like where I was, where I would be there forever. It just felt so permanent. The friends that I had around, the situations I was in, the physical place I was in, I felt like I would literally just be there forever. And like time does move on and you grow up in like a very positive way and you have the ability to do anything you want. You can just start doing it. I didn't know that either. I thought you had to like wait for someone to tell you, oh, you should do this. Like I thought I had to wait for someone to be like, make a podcast, we're gonna fund it, do everything, and like you can just start doing whatever you want. But also you just learn so much about yourself. And I'm sure in 10 years I'll feel the same way. But yeah, just wherever, whatever you're feeling and wherever you are, it's going to change in like a good way. You're not stuck wherever you are, which I felt very stuck for sure.
What do you hope people take away from your work?
I think that what I hope is that they have a better positive connotation with the word gay and even with themselves being gay, that being gay is cool and fun and also like no big deal. Like no, like literally no problem. Like, yeah, I don't know. I think being around so many queer people, especially queer people in pop culture and in entertainment, you take for granted that a lot of people don't view their own themselves or other queer people in that way. But I think that yeah, like being gay is like not a big deal at all, and it's super fun and cool. So I kind of think, even though that seems like such a lame takeaway, I think it's so important. I think we always talk about the seriousness of pushing for queer rights, which is so true and really important right now. But I think what's also important is destigmatizing being gay, and then also on top of that, remembering it's like literally not that big of a deal. So that is what I hope people take away
And
from
being
it.
bisexual, not
Yes,
a problem.
yes, yes. Yeah, I think I also use gay as just an umbrella term. I'm just
I know.
a little gay. But yes, for sure. Yeah, and you can be people are bisexual. I didn't know.
They are. They
But
are.
yeah,
They are. You are.
I
Lots
am.
lots of people are.
Many
Statistically,
people are.
lots of people are,
There's a lot of us.
particularly a lot of women. Um,
Yeah.
and why for you, you've been on Venus. Can I ask you why a platform
Yeah,
like that is important for people to be able to talk to each other?
absolutely. And this is so funny because this is kind of like exactly what we've been talking about just now is being able to like reach other queer people and reach other people that are going through the same thing that you're going through. But Venus is amazing and it's never been done before, which is so funny because it should have been. Um, it is just a compilation of, and I've talked to you about this before, compilation of every social media app you could find, except it's already tailored to sapphic content. And the amount of times that people have to look up on TikTok hashtag sapphic or sapphic on Instagram, where you're trying to get the algorithm to catch up with you, you don't have to do any of that work because it's already right there. So that's what I love about it. And the other thing is, a year ago when TikTok almost got banned, I felt like there was a mad dash to any other app. And a lot of young people, specifically Gen Zs, who have a platform on TikTok and have, refined their audience to be sapphic specifically, people didn't know where to go. And people were thinking, do we go to YouTube? Okay, wait, no, because we're going to miss, the Twitter aspect of YouTube. Oh, should we go to Twitter? But then we miss videos. Should we go to Facebook? Oh, that doesn't really have Gen Zs on it. Like there was no place that had everything we wanted. And I feel like Venus has a compilation of all of those things. So that is my recommendation for Venus.
I love you for that. I love you for that. And speaking of Venus, I'm going to, because there's probably been some comments that you and I can't see. So I'm going to bring on our other co-founder, who is actually the founder of OML, Shireen Edison, who's been she said she's on standby, and she is. Look at her.
Do we have any comments? It's okay if we don't.
Well, we have Shireen, who probably has her own questions.
Yes, well, the questions have been streaming in. Hi, Hailey. You're fantastic. Catherine, I kind of know you.
Yeah, I know.
We talked like what, an hour ago?
Every day.
Okay, so yes, questions. Hold on, let me go back to our live page. All right, I'm going to take it from bottom up. Hailey, what's been the most surprising, meaningful connection you've made through your content?
That's a great question. Well, one of the okay, I'll say two really quick answers. One is that I was in LA, this lesbian bar had a Taylor Swift pop-up. And of course I went, right up my alley. And someone recognized me there, which I was like, whoa, this is crazy. I'm getting recognized. And we got to talk about all things queer and Taylor Swift, which was very fun. And then I have just had a few like very heartwarming messages from people saying that wherever they lived was a place that they couldn't come out, but they felt like they were like living vicariously through my content. And they just felt like, that they felt some sort of like community through whether it be people that followed me in the comment section or my videos, which just made me feel like, okay, there's a reason why I'm on TikTok. I'm not just doing this for nothing. So
that's awesome. Very awesome. Okay. Next question. What's your biggest dream in podcasting?
Ooh, good one.
What's my biggest dream?
It's all for you, Hailey. She's like me.
I'm like,
I'm not a podcaster.
I think that I think this is, obviously I've got a lot of dreams, but having just people listen to it, I was just surprised. My biggest dream was just having a podcast, honestly. So I think anything up from here is great. I would love to, have some other guests on, have just interesting conversations. I would love to be like one of the top pop culture podcasts. I feel like a lot of pop culture podcasts are straight girls, which love straight girls, lots of my besties, but great to have some queer representation for pop culture content. So I think that might be a dream.
That's awesome. All right, here's a good one. Well, very specific. On OML, you dove into Gay for Page, examining the WNBA's LGBTQ presence. What sparked that particular story, and why do you think that WNBA is becoming such a cultural flashpoint?
Yeah.
Why? Amazing, because it's amazing. Sorry.
I love basketball.
Shut up.
No, wait, do you want to answer?
No, I don't want to answer. It's a question
Oh,
for you.
I would love your insight. Um, I grew up playing basketball, and honestly, some of my biggest queer awakenings was like being really nervous playing with other people, and I thought I was just nervous for the tryout, but realizing later that I just crushes on people I was playing with, women I was playing with, which is just funny. But I don't know, there's a lot of gays in basketball, and I realized that when I was younger, but I got into this story because I've been following Paige Beckers, and I think a lot of people started watching a lot more women's basketball, women's sports in the last 5 years, which I think is amazing. And, not only is women's sports awesome, but there's a lot of gays in women's sports. And I think we need to be talking about that more. But with Paige Beckers specifically, and I kind of added to the jumped on the bandwagon about people wondering if she was queer. And then she did come out with a girlfriend. I think it was just a great story to showcase. First of all, you don't have to come out to just start living your gay life. And then also normalizing people just being amazing at basketball and being lesbians, which I loved. And I think brought a lot of young queer fans along to the NBA. It kind of went from NCAA to WNBA when they kind of follow these players get into the draft, which I think is great for women's sports and just bringing a lot of young, thirsty lesbians to watch, which is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, if you're ever feeling like you need to see some lesbians, just go to a WNBA game.
It's literally a pride party.
It
Yeah.
really is a pride party every game for lesbians,
Yeah.
queer women.
Okay, next questions. These are some I understand more than others. How does your community on TikTok help you connect with others for your theories and stuff?
Yeah. There's a lot of things that, I'll just be in my bedroom and I'll be like, wait, what? You know, coming up with stuff on my own. But a lot of what, I don't know, what I really love about TikTok and social media and yeah, is just like sharing other theories and people having this community of, wait, have you guys listened to this song? Is this song connecting to this song? Or um, connecting old movies and old songs and artists to current artists and different stuff like that. So I feel like sharing theories is one of my favorite parts about TikTok and having a community on there. Because there's some smart people out there. And I feel like pop culture is also very academic and theorizing and like reading lyrics in a certain way, interpreting it in a certain way. So that's just been the most, even if it's not even true, it's just very interesting. Maybe Taylor Swift didn't mean to reference this obscure artist from 1945, but very interesting to talk about. So that's been very interesting. Yeah.
I love
So
these.
these two answers are kind of the same. What moments in your life or career have taught you the value of vulnerability in sharing your truth? And then the other is, how do you balance raw honesty with thoughtful commentary on sensitive topics? They kind of feel like they're kind of the same. So go.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So I'll take the second one first because that's a very tough one. And, um, I think the difficult part about short-term content is that right when you put something out, people have immediate opinions, which so fair. However, the benefit of a podcast is that I think I'm a little bit more raw and honest because sometimes I'm like, yeah, I'm crafting something in a way that I hopefully, some random person who sees us on the other side of the world won't hate. Um, but when you're on podcast, you're making content for your listeners that are already kind of aware of who you are and the content you make. So I think it's a little bit easier to just jump right in with how I really feel about something. So that was the second question. And then the first one was, oh, yeah, being authentic and in my career. A lot of people say this who are creatives, but the biggest hurdle is just getting over your fear of being cringe. When I first started making TikToks, I was so worried about people from high school like seeing my TikToks. And the thing is, they do, and they will make fun of you, but you just have to get over it. And I mean, I would see like people forwarding and liking things that I like haven't talked to in 10 years. And I'm like, I know this is going to a group chat. But then you remember that I won't see that person. And I would rather make authentic content about being gay and be called the gay girl than not just be authentic and do what I want to do, because it doesn't really matter. So it's just getting over the fear of being cringe, I think.
Great answers. All right, the last one. How do you decide when to lean into humor versus heartfelt storytelling in your content?
Oh my God, these are great questions. I think sometimes I catch myself being too much of one thing and I just switch it up. If I'm like, damn, this has been a kind of an intense episode, maybe about my coming out, or I think the questioning sexuality felt like very, activism and very theory based. I'm like, time for some humor, I think. And then also with my humor, I think, I don't want to be known as one thing. I think that you can be humorous and lighthearted and also make a really good academic, thoughtful point. So I think that I just really want to make sure that like I'm well-rounded in that way. And just try to add a touch of both. Hopefully that answered the question.
I want to add that the questions came from both YouTube live chat as well as Inside Venus. So it's a combo.
Amazing.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much. That's all. That's all I have.
We are just a few minutes out. I have a burning question, which is, did Sandra Bullock really have a lesbian bar in New York?
So I've done so much research to get to the bottom of this. I can't get the truth, but there is a lot of okay. It is rumored that she has a lesbian bar in New York and in Texas. And I found out that the source of this rumor is from like a real person, but we don't have pictures. We don't have photos. We will never know unless someone knows.
Where in Texas? Where in Texas?
In Waco.
What?
I know.
Waco?
Isn't that so random? Some people think it's just her house.
Yes, David, correct.
She has, yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, we're all
I think got her own colony.
Colony going. The feds were like, we're not going over there. It's just a bunch of lesbians. It's like Sandra having a lesbian party. Let's go over
this episode.
Let's go over this one.
Yeah. They're catching on to us. Let's get to Waco.
Fork in the road. The lesbians in Sandra's party or David Koresh.
Yeah, a bar in the heart of Manhattan and in Waco. Makes total sense.
I just want to know why I wasn't invited. Okay, I just loved that. I was like, that perked my attention up.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't say that is 100% truthful because I don't know, but
it doesn't matter. But it just meant a lot to me just to even think and wonder why I wasn't on the guest list. Hailey, I just want to say, just really again, having you do this interview and to be so honest and smart and wonderful tonight, and to come onto OML, and particularly for supporting Venus as we're leading up to our official launch September 18th, but we are live now in the App Store, Venus Community. And welcome to Venus, right? Welcome to Venus.com.
Venus.com.
Welcome to Venus.com. Welcome to Venus.com. We encourage people to go to welcome to Venus.com. Welcome to Venus.com. I'm to say it 5 times. Welcome to Venus.com. Please go to welcome to Venus.com. That is a shameless plug.
And we are in both app stores, both Android and Apple.
That is correct.
Okay.
And Hailey is a member, and we have our podcasts on there.
I am a member.
Many other podcasts and much other content. And Hailey, thank you, thank you, thank you. Really, thank you for
Thank
tonight.
you guys so much. This was very fun. And you can catch me on Venus.
And
right.
Gasp
Welcome to Venus.
Pod
Let's
and
all head
Gasp
over
the
there.
Pod and on Gasp the Pod and on TikTok.
You guys, let's head over there and maybe make a pit stop in Waco.
Yep.
I think so.
I'm headed to Waco.
I'm totally gonna search out the party.
All right. Thank you again.